Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 31 of the Rollout Show. Bradley and I are fresh off of a sweet karaoke jam session.
But I'm going to edit it out because it's super embarrassing.
It's okay. I already deleted the track. I didn't delete the track.
Oh, you don't know how to upload it, so I'm not worried about it.
Shh.
That's the good thing about doing all the work behind the scenes, is you control what gets published. And you're the one who forgets to turn on download tracking for episodes. So we have no idea how many people downloaded episode 30, which was a big episode for us. The first episode of the theme song. So,
that's right.
Oops, my bad.
Sorry, Tyler. We don't have any stats for you. Actually,
we'll
wait.
on this one.
Actually, we do have stats. You actually really cratered our downloads this week because of the song.
Yeah.
Shout out to Tyler.
Downloads are real down. Like 0? Because stat tracking wasn't. Anyway, you don't care about this.
That's just some housekeeping stuff. We're talking business, and we should be talking about the show. This is not entertaining to you guys. We're sorry.
Not that the show's ever entertaining, but we appreciate you listening regardless.
I mean, we really just do this show so me and Bradley can listen to each other and listen to the show and laugh at our own jokes. It's really great, especially for when Thursday night football really sucks. We can just come in here, knock a show out, and then just listen to it and laugh.
We watch a half of football, realizes it's garbage, and then just come record the show because Thursday night football is a joke, and the NFL should get rid of it.
I don't know, man. I mean, I'm really looking forward, and I really enjoyed seeing the Ryan Mallett show tonight. We're kind of dating the show a little bit, but Ryan Mallett took over for the Ravens tonight, and I guess looked pretty good.
Also, it's halftime, so that's a thing.
I mean, there's still time for either of those two really disappointing, mediocre teams to screw something up.
Can I ask you an inside baseball NFL question? Don't know why I said inside baseball NFL, but you get it.
I get you.
How do you think about the quarterback play right now across the NFL? Like, obviously, you have Tom Brady, still great. You have Aaron Rodgers, who, when he was playing, is an all-timer. But who's the next best quarterback in football? Who's third right now?
I mean, that's the tough question because the guys I would like to put up there would be an Andrew Luck. He's injured. Derek Carr, he's been injured, this season. But otherwise, I'd pretty much have to say...
Because Derek Carr hasn't been that good this year. I got to give him a pass, though, because he has a broken back.
Exactly.
You have to give him a pass.
And his coach is making him, do a quarterback draw on 3rd and 5 with a broken back.
Good job, Jack Del Rio.
Shout out to Del Rio. Whatever.
I mean, legitimately, though, who's the third best quarterback in football right now? Jameis was supposed to have a breakout year this year. Not good. Mariota was supposed to take a next step this year.
Injuries, hasn't been good. Cam Newton has been Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde this season. He's either lit it up or been trash.
I think what we're seeing with Cam Newton is his MVP season was an outlier, and that he is what he is. He's a 50% accurate passer. He can't hit guys that are open. He's super inaccurate, but he's a freak of nature and can run people over. So as soon as he loses that, he'll be out of the league. He's not as good.
Yeah.
I mean, right now
he's got good arm strength. It's just it doesn't seem like he's improved the touch on his passes at all.
He's not a good thrower of the football. He's just not. He can fit some in because he has a super big arm, but he's so inaccurate, it infuriates me. You have guys like Russell Wilson, I think, are kind of overrated.
I think I may have your answer that you're looking for.
Alex Smith?
Alex Smith was who I was about to say, but the other guy I'm thinking...
Carson Wentz?
Honestly, forgot about Carson Wentz right there, but I was going to say Dak Prescott, but
that's another one. Honestly, right now, Goff has looked good too. Those three, that quarterback class needs to be the 04 quarterback class of Phillip Rivers, Eli, and Big Ben. Because the NFL, the really, really good quarterbacks like Tom Brady, Drew Brees, Big Ben, I'm Phillip Rivers, even Aaron Rodgers to an extent, they're getting old.
Yeah, Eli Manning's getting old.
And the next tier was supposed to be the Andrew Luck, Russell Wilson, RG3, Ryan Tannehill group.
And it was for a while. It's just they're all either injured or for some reason haven't taken the next step.
And Russell's fine. I don't think he's amazing. I think he's really amazing at creating plays. I don't think he's very good at situations that aren't broken plays. I think he's just kind of average. Andrew Luck is great when he's actually in there, but he can't stay on the field.
And his team can't put anything around him either.
Yeah. And the rest of the quarterbacks from that class aren't very good. Then you had the class of Derek Carr, Mariota, Jameis, and that was supposed to be the class that took a next step.
And Teddy Bridgewater, too.
And Teddy Bridgewater, who could come back this season, I heard.
He's practicing now, so.
He's fully cleared for full contact and practice. I hope he sees the field this year. I doubt he will because Case Keenum is playing surprisingly well. We'll see. But it might have to be Dak and Carson Wentz and Goff that carry the NFL forward because right now it's looking kind of bleak.
It really is, and it's just weird because I know the jury's still out on these guys, but you look at it and you expected them because most of them had good seasons last year, and then they just have not taken the next step. Everybody's been disappointing for some reason. I don't know if it's just more emphasis on analytics, more studying of film or something, or different defensive strategies. It's just quarterback play overall has not been good this year.
And I think that may be a couple of things. One, you and I have a unique perspective of, I don't know when you started watching football, like the year you really started watching football. Mine was 06. So 06 was young Peyton, prime Tom Brady, in the middle of the Peyton versus Brady arguments. You had Brett Favre slinging it around, and you had a young Big Ben, Phillip Rivers, Eli in the league. Like, there were a lot of really, really, really good quarterbacks, and those quarterbacks have sustained the last decade of football that we've been watching. So it may just be our unique perspective, and we aren't used to not having so many elite players. It's probably how we're going to feel in 10 years when all the really, really good basketball players are old and they aren't being replaced.
Oh, and then we're going to be just like what happened to the NBA?
Yeah, because right now we have this huge number. I think there are 15 to 20 players in the NBA right now that have a chance to be all-timers. Like, we have a ton of super talented people in the NBA right now that could easily be cyclical and stop. So we'll see about the NFL. I thought I'd bring that up because I'm a bit concerned. I like what I see from Goff and Wentz and Dak, but I sort of saw the same flashes, especially Goff. Like, Wentz and Dak, I think, are for real.
Yeah, they're for real.
Goff shows flashes, but I've seen flashes from Mariota. I've seen flashes from Jameis. I've seen flashes from Derek Carr. And they haven't seemed to. And Derek Carr, you're right, I should excuse him because he's injured. He had an MVP caliber season last year before he got hurt. So I'll excuse him from this roasting. Jameis and Mariota.
What are you doing?
What are you guys doing? How are the Bucks 2-4? How are the Titans not winning that division?
I mean, the Titans should run away with that division.
Mariota, you're going against a rookie who doesn't have a good O-line, who finally has a number 2 receiver, who their defense, their best players keep getting hurt. Like, the Titans should be running away with that division, and they just barely beat the Browns. How do you have to go to overtime to beat the Browns?
And Kaiser had an awful game.
Kaiser's trash. Although Hugh Jackson, leave the kid in there. You're not going to win anyway.
You had to know what you were signing up for. Like, I'm sorry. There were other opportunities there for you. You believed in the Browns. You were a loyal guy. They came to you first, but...
Do you think he's going to get canned?
Honestly, I can never tell with the ownership because the owner, Jimmy Haslam, seemed to have committed to this full-blown rebuild, throwing out everything strategy, just turn the keys over to the franchise. But he's never really given a front office or a coach 2 seasons, and these have been 2 atrocious seasons. So I don't know how long he's going to stick with it.
So I would feel more confident if he had stuck with Deshaun Kaiser this whole season, But the fact that he keeps benching him tells me that Hugh Jackson is desperate for a win. And a guy that's desperate for a win is most likely desperate for a job. And you can't. Cody Kessler's not your future.
No.
Like, he's been fine. He's not your future. Kevin Hogan, I don't think is your future. He's fine. I think he'll be a decent career backup. He's not your future. Deshaun Kaiser is the only quarterback you have on your roster right now that has the potential to be an NFL starter for a decade. In my opinion, I think he's the only one with the arm talent. I think he's the only one that can sling it around well enough. Not that Kevin Hogan can't sling it, but you've seen it from Kaiser. You've seen it with the Browns from Kaiser. He's looked decent at times.
Oh, especially opening week against the Steelers, because the Steelers' defense is actually good. It's not like the past few years Steelers' defense where, I mean, they seem to be paper thin and everybody picked them apart, and it was a shootout every game.
They've improved crazily. Really crazy.
Really crazy.
Really crazy.
Rapid improvement.
Really had to search for words there. I'm sorry.
You're like a poet. It's great over there.
I was gonna go full dad joke and say I didn't even know it, but I couldn't. I couldn't bring myself to do it. I couldn't bring myself to do it.
It was on a T for you. Come on.
I couldn't, man.
You know I appreciate the dad joke. You gotta go dad joke.
So we're in agreement. Deshaun Kaiser needs to get in the game. Okay, I'm sorry for this tangent. We had a docket and I just completely derailed.
Honestly, though, it's the AFC South. What is up with that division every season? Because the Titans should be good. I don't believe in Malarkey as a coach, but they seem to rally around him.
I think he may be part of the problem.
I really think he is, because the power running scheme just really doesn't seem to work anymore.
But how do you have... Speaking of the power running scheme, you have one of the best 5 O-lines in football.
Yes.
And you have 2 of probably the top 10, top 15 running backs in football. Like, Derrick Henry on most other teams would be the starter. He's legit. And DeMarco Murray is very, very, very good still. How are you not doing better? I just don't understand it.
See, I think they're just too predictable, honestly. I think that's what it...
And part of the problem
Jeff
is
Fisher
because
syndrome.
Mariota's not pushing the ball downfield. It all stems... It comes back to Mariota. He was bad against the Browns.
Because what really makes that power running scheme work is because Mariota's mobile, so you don't know whether Mariota's going to take off.
The read option helps.
Yes, the read option helps a lot. And then you have guys like Delaney Walker who can work on broken plays, and then athletic wide receivers like Rashard Matthews, and then Corey Davis. I haven't really seen much from him, but I mean, Eric Decker, he still can
The receiver
play.
core isn't great, but it's good enough. You have a bunch of number 2s and 3s with, you said, Corey Davis, Rashard Matthews, Eric Decker. Delaney Walker's legit.
One of the best tight ends in football.
And Mariota, that seems to be the only weapon he uses appropriately. He can't get the ball to the other guys. I don't know. I do think there's a problem with the quarterback play in the NFL, but I also think, like, what was the quarterback play in the 90s when Montana and Elway and Marino were all, like, entering the twilight of their careers, like the late 90s? That couldn't have been a good time for the NFL. I'm trying to think of all-timers. It was Brett Favre.
Up. It was Brett Favre and Peyton coming up.
I don't know. Maybe we're spoiled.
I also think it's just a different league from back then, though, because now there's, like, a bigger emphasis on passing the ball. That's what made Marino, Elway, and
so
Montana. So, yes, exactly.
Because
They're
they
so
were
unique.
Gunslingers. And Brett Favre, too. Like, they were gunslingers. They were ripping the ball downfield, and that's something that wasn't done to the volume, especially Marino. I think Marino doesn't get enough
really
credit
changed
for
the game.
Marino, because he didn't win a Super Bowl, will never be in the GOAT conversation. But I'm not sure if any quarterback changed football the way Marino did, in all seriousness. Like, no one threw with the volume that, and I don't have stats in front of me to back this up, but
no, his volume was ridiculous.
He pushed the ball down the field in a way that hadn't been done before. Elway a little bit too. I don't want to take credit away from Elway, but yeah, those guys changed the game, And it's tough to compare quarterback play today to any time really past 10 years ago, because the numbers are just ridiculous. Like, you put Matt Stafford's numbers up against any current NFL quarterback Hall of Famer, and you do like the blind test where you take the names away, and Matt Stafford is going to have better numbers than all of them. Literally all of them.
And then you look at Matt Stafford and you see the contract he got, and most people are like, "Really, for Matt Stafford?"
Well, because he's pretty good. He's not a top,
like the Kirk
guy.
Cousins rank of That's what you have to do with a pretty good quarterback. You have like a few elite guys, and then you have like that next tier / the tier below it.
I would put like he's in the tier with Alex Smith.
You didn't expect to be saying that coming into the year, did you?
Tyrod,
Matt Ryan,
Russell Wilson, Matt Ryan. I think Cam Newton might be a tier below that.
I would agree with you. I'd say Drew Brees is in that second tier still, just because that guy can still get it done.
I know. I'm saying, I want him to be in the top tier.
I do too.
Like, he's still really good.
He's at the top of that second tier, like fringe between the two. He's the glue between the two.
That's tough. He's the glue.
He's the glue, because you know me.
Right there.
You know how the affinity I have for Drew Brees. I love Drew Brees.
He's great. He's one of the 10 best to ever do it. But again, it's tough to compare this generation of quarterbacks to past generations.
I do have a really weird topic that just popped into my head.
I like weird topics. Go for
it.
This is how we do things, off the cuff.
I'll
have you know, we still have not introduced the docket, which none of this was on.
That's
just how this show goes.
This is just straight up whatever Bradley and I feel like.
And the funny thing is, like, the reason we started this podcast was because when we hung out, we would just talk about random sports topics for hours. And we're like, maybe we should be... Actually, I think it was my mom. My mom was like, you guys should be recording this. It would be really entertaining. And we were like, that's a great idea.
That's a great idea.
Let's record this.
And then we sat on the idea for months, and then we're like, okay, let's actually do it.
We made the Twitter handle. We came up with the name. Then we sat on the idea for about 6 months. And then we actually did it.
Then we hit the ground running. That's right.
These podcasts turn into just our conversations, which is why they go kind of off the wall in random directions, but I like it. What you got?
Okay. So if you were going to take the Marino, Elway, Montana, Steve Young even, and who would be the modern day versions of those? Because I have my modern day version of Marino, and it just glaringly stuck in my head when you were talking about that, and I want to see if you agree.
So I think if you have Steve Young in there, you have to have Favre in there too.
Okay, go for it.
So Montana, to me, is the easiest. It would be Tom Brady.
Agreed.
It is. You have an all-time great coach with an all-time great system, all-time great talent around you, and you do the best job arguably anyone has ever done at maximizing the talent around you for your own success. So Montana and Brady, and they both have similar play styles. Like, they had arms, but they weren't gunslingers. They were gonna methodically take you down the field and surgically tear you apart.
And then somehow at the end of the game, you will look and be like, wow, you know, Brady didn't really have that great of a game. And then you look at it, it's like, wow, okay, actually he did.
He was 27 of 34 for 322 yards and 3 touchdowns and no interceptions. When did that happen?
Wow, those little passes to Edelman really worked out.
Yeah.
They just really add up.
I mean, they do. That's what the Patriots have done basically since Randy Moss left, is they surgically tear you apart down the field. Favre? So my first gut instinct, and it's probably just off of the team, is to say Aaron Rodgers, but that's not accurate. Aaron Rodgers is a way better decision maker than Favre ever was. I'll say Wentz.
That's exactly where I was going.
Carson Wentz, he pushes it down the field, which I really like, and Andrew Luck. Andrew Luck is another one that they're not always going to make the best decision, but when they make a decision, they believe in their arm to get the ball where it needs to be. And more times than not, they do it. Now, not always. It's not always what they should do. And they have a lot of turnovers. but they make more plays than they mess up.
I agree with you. So far, you're 2 for 2 with my list.
All right.
So we're in agreement right now.
Elway and Marino are the harder ones. So Marino, I would say, more reminds me of Aaron Rodgers. Just the precision aspect. Aaron Rodgers is unlike Favre because he doesn't make bad decisions, but he's unlike Montana because he's not afraid to push the ball down the field in an aggressive fashion. He just does it precisely. And I think Aaron Rodgers and Dan Marino might be the two most accurate quarterbacks in the history of football. So I'll go those two. Who do I have left? Elway and Steve Young. Give me your Marino. I don't want to skip.
Okay. This is the one we disagree on. I see your side with the whole Aaron Rodgers, and again, this is whole like off the cuff.
Yeah,
right
you
here.
could convince me. That's just what first thing that popped in my head was Aaron Rodgers.
First thing that popped into my head was Andrew Luck with Marino, because the knock against Marino is that he was an all-time great. His teams tried to get there, but they never did anything to surround him with the talent he really needed to just take them over the top. They just kind of relied on Marino, and everything's going to work out okay. And that's what I feel like is happening with Andrew Luck. It's either the coaching, the decision makers, and hopefully with the new front office, that's going to change. This is pretty much a lost season right now at this point anyway. But every time I see Andrew Luck, I keep thinking of a guy that has all the talent in the world. He has that gunslinger trait. He's a really good quarterback. He's taken some pretty average-ish teams really far in the playoffs, but then he can't get anywhere near the Super Bowl really just because it's Andrew Luck or bust, and you just can't survive like that all the time.
So I agree with you. I think Andrew Luck is a good one from the standpoint of their career arcs seem to be going about the same way. I will say though, everything you just said also sort of applies to Aaron Rodgers.
I agree with you.
They've done a better job than Indianapolis has done of acquiring
absolutely.
talent. Like Jordy is great. Devontae Adams is really, really good. Randall Cobb is okay. Their O-line has always been pretty solid. And their defense, especially when they won the Super Bowl, was real good. But they also have a tendency to just say, Aaron Rodgers, go win us this game. And that's how they play.
That's 100%.
That's so I could see where you're coming from, though. I think both are good answers. Elway. Do you have one for Elway? Because I have one for Steve Young, but Elway, I'll go Steve Young then.
Go Steve Young.
Russell Wilson?
I can see that.
The only difference is I don't think Russell Wilson's arm is quite as strong as Steve Young's ever was, but that's the other thing that popped into my head was Tyrod, but that's really only because he's a dual threat. I don't think that's a fair comparison because Tyrod, I don't think he's as good of a passer as Steve Young.
I don't think so either.
I'll go Russell with a little less confidence than my other answers.
Okay, I got you. See, I can understand because when I thought of Steve Young, the same names popped into my head because I thought of mobile quarterbacks who could also get it down the field a little bit. But Tyrod, either it's the people around him, just the situation he's in, but I don't think he has nearly like the arm talent that Steve Young had.
No.
See, I probably would have to go Russell Wilson too, just because the whole broken plays thing. And part of me wanted to say a little bit of Alex Smith, but like he just doesn't have the arm strength.
That's disrespectful. Like
I know.
Actually, that name popped in my head too, but that's disrespectful to Steve Young.
Alex Smith I agree.
Is fine. He is not Steve Young. He's just not. Maybe if he had better coaching in his career, the talent is clearly there. Maybe if he had a little bit of stronger mental strength and capacity to play like he does when someone's about to take his job. Because that's the only time he seems to play great is when someone's about to take his job.
Absolutely.
Maybe if he had the ability to have that sense of urgency his whole career, we'd be talking a little differently about Alex Smith. But I that's tough. It's tough to compare him to Steve Young.
The person who I am actually thought of first, which I was almost afraid to bring up when talking about Steve Young comparison. We'll see what you say about this. Now, granted, I think this guy is better than Steve Young, but I thought of Aaron Rodgers.
See,
I think it's
that's
mainly
just disrespectful.
It's not disrespectful to like really either of them, because I know Steve Young isn't quite. I mean, we don't have the historic numbers yet, because Steve Young was great. Aaron Rodgers is great, sort of in different ways, but both are pretty mobile. Both have kind of had improbable comebacks in their career and just been like, hey, you have to do with.
Well, and their career arcs are similar. Both sat behind legends.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Great success. Both really thrive off of broken plays in the same way Russell Wilson does. I just think Aaron Rodgers, when everything is said and done, and I am incredibly biased and a fanboy because he's by far my favorite player. But there's a reason he's my favorite player. I have no loyalty to Green Bay. When I watch Aaron Rodgers play, it's like nothing I've ever seen before. In all seriousness, like Aaron Rodgers is the most. It's like watching. It's the same thing I feel when I watch LeBron. It's like here's this person doing something that everyone else is trying to achieve and they just can't. Even Tom Brady does not have the physical arm talent that Aaron Rodgers does. And I hope he wins a couple more rings. Not even for him. Like, I would be rooting for him and I'd be happy for him. But so that others would validate his greatness. Because he's if he retired today, I would put him in my top 5 all time. And I don't know if a lot of people would. But Steve Young's a Hall of Famer. Like,
oh, absolutely.
Like, the comparison isn't lost on me. I think it's a fine comparison. I just think Steve Young didn't have nearly the arm talent that Aaron Rodgers has. You got one for Elway? Because I think Elway's the toughest.
See,
I'm really struggling on this one.
I think I kind of went, for some reason I drew this connection. I think it is kind of more career arc. I said Peyton in my head because I don't know if it's just the Broncos connection, but I thought of how amazing regular season quarterback, but had kind of the reputation until the end of his career of just not getting it done in the playoffs.
So career arc, yes, I think that's a fine comparison. The difference is Elway thrived off of his arm strength and his athleticism. Peyton certainly didn't.
No, Peyton certainly did not do that. Peyton had a cannon.
Peyton thrived off of his ability to prepare better than you did. Like, Peyton Manning may be the most cerebral quarterback the NFL has ever seen. I hear stories about guys would walk into meeting rooms and the whiteboards from top to bottom all the way around the room would just be filled with notes and plays and diagrams, where Peyton was just studying and studying and studying. And no one, maybe other than Tom Brady, although I haven't heard these kinds of stories from Tom Brady, but
I haven't either.
It could be because he's still playing and Bill Belichick keeps that under wraps like crazy. But I definitely hear those stories about Peyton Manning.
Because he was practically a coach on the field is what Peyton was. I mean, you really didn't you needed an offensive coordinator, but there was always the joke that Peyton's his own offensive coordinator. And Peyton makes the coach doesn't make Peyton.
And I don't really have a good one for Elway. My initial gut reaction is someone like Aaron Rodgers, but Aaron Rodgers doesn't rely on his athleticism. And the guys that do or did earlier in their career, Cam isn't a good enough thrower of the football. I don't really have a good one for Elway.
Maybe Luck, potentially?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, he's got the arm strength and the athleticism, and both were Stanford guys, but
Luck's a good one. And both both struggled earlier in their careers and postseason success.
Both
Not
first
that-
overall picks.
Well, in luck, it's not that he played poorly in the playoffs. His team just was outmatched every time.
He always had the oldest team in the NFL and was relying on basically 40-year-old playmakers on both
look at
sides of the
Frank
ball.
Gore. Frank Gore's still getting 20 touches a game when Marlon Mack is doubling his yards per touch. It's ridiculous to me. I don't understand.
Isn't he like 34 still though? Frank Gore?
He's 33 or 34. Frank Gore's averaging like 3 yards a touch, and Marlon Mack is averaging like 6.5 yards a touch, and they keep giving the ball to Frank Gore. Chuck
Pagano can coach.
And I think we've criticized Marlon Mack on this show before for his fumbling problems, but he can play. Like, if he learns to tuck the ball, he's very good, and he's clearly more explosive than Frank Gore. No disrespect to the future Hall of Famer, but come on, man. You're 33, 34.
It's all due respect to Frank Gore to even be that productive at his age with that kind of mileage on that body.
He's been pretty decent the last couple of years, but he's slowing down. You can tell when you watch Colts games.
I mean, all the other running backs of his ilk at this age and this stage in their careers they were either the starter on a team that didn't really focus on the running game, or they were a backup that's kind of change of pace and teaching like the younger guy. Like kind of like a Steven Jackson in Atlanta. He was just that little sugar on top.
At the very end of his career.
Exactly. It's not like he's on a bad team and he's almost a major focal point of the offense.
Or like Marshawn Lynch this year, despite what Raiders fans were expecting, he's not been incredible, and he's probably the third worst running back on that team, unfortunately.
I always thought he was going to be more of like almost the Gillislee kind of role where he's just there for the short yardage stuff and to kind of be part of a running back by committee. And
that's sort of what it's been, but if he can stay on the field and not get suspended for pushing refs
and things like that.
Come on, Marshawn. You're better than that.
Defending his childhood friend Marcus Peters against his friends that are on his team he plays for currently. Eeh.
All right, what a fun tangent. Let us know what you think in the comments, or tweet us, or leave iTunes reviews about it. Let us know. It's a fun conversation.
Yeah, it is. Just a little side topic
If you learned anything, Aaron Rodgers is the GOAT, and you should all respect him.
If you've learned anything, Drew Brees is the greatest player of all time.
That's not true, but I do respect him.
To come from Purdue.
That's probably true. I mean, I don't know who else has come from Purdue, but that's probably true.
See, you thought I was saying one thing, and then I completely mixed it up and said another thing.
Totally mixed me up, man. I'm shocked. I'm flabbergasted.
I'm a master at that, let me tell you.
Okay, so what's on the docket for today's show?
Well, now that we're, pretty far into the show, we're going to talk about the World Series. We had one of the greatest games ever last night, Game 2 of the World Series. We're going to touch on the Joe Girardi news that came down today, if you haven't heard. Then we're also going to get into 2 disgruntled players in 2 different sports, Martavis Bryant and Eric Bledsoe.
I really thought you were going to leave that as a tease. I didn't think you were going to say the names.
No.
You really messed that one up. It's fine. It's fine. I didn't tell you to beforehand. I thought inherently you just knew to leave it as a tease.
I'm sorry.
You got to kind of tease the audience, man.
That's my bad. I'm sorry, guys. And then we're going to potentially touch on, if we have some time, some college football coaches who we may think are in a little bit of trouble or a little bit viewed improperly, let's say.
There's the tease. All right,
there we go.
Nicely.
I recovered. Woo!
All right, go for it. Baseball hell.
Okay. This is not baseball hell. This was an all-time classic game
strong,
last night.
man.
I am coming out strong.
Tell me about it.
Okay. So, Game 2, World Series in Los Angeles.
It was amazing.
We had on the mound, you have Rich Hill, the ageless wonder.
How old is he?
He's like 37, but he was basically out of the league for 10 years. And everybody was like, Rich Hill?
Who dat?
Making, like, that guy? He's still, like, alive. He still has an arm.
He's
like,
still alive.
Literally, though. Like, he made a spot start for the Red Sox, battled all the way back, and then was like, wow, Rich Hill had a pretty good game. That's a nice story. He made it all the way back. Then he had 2 good games. 3 good games. And it's like, wow, okay, Rich Hill can still pitch a little bit. Then, of course, Billy Beane, being that master he is, signed the dude after like 6 starts with the Red Sox to like a 1-year deal. And then, of course, flipped him at the deadline to the Dodgers. And they re-signed with the Dodgers in the offseason. But he's been pretty good. Rediscovered his pitching career, got some good health late in life. Anyway, Rich Hill.
37 is late in life. Sports are so weird, man.
I know. It's just like he looks older than that.
We were just talking about how Frank Gore was ancient for a running back and he's 33.
Okay, but for real though, Frank Gore has been around since like what, 92? I feel like since I've been alive, Frank Gore has been a starting running back for a football team.
You're probably right. I don't know. When was his first year starting in Miami? I don't know.
Because, I mean, I feel like he's been a prominent running back on a bunch of different teams since before I was born.
I mean, he's...
It's
2001. He was part of the 2001 Miami Hurricanes football team.
like him, Clinton Portis, Willis McGahee.
That was certainly before we were watching football.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Except for like the occasional random clip that I remember in my head of
or
like
the Super Bowl.
The greatest show on turf, you know.
Oh, my gosh.
Greatest team
We're
ever.
on baseball now.
Okay,
You're
yes,
supposed
baseball.
to be convincing me that baseball is good.
It is. It was amazing. So, we had Justin Verlander, one of the greatest pitchers of all time, taking the hill.
Love you, Verley.
Love you, JV. JV, you're straight varsity.
Does he go by Verley? He should.
No, most people call him JV or Justin.
But Verley's pretty good, though.
I've never heard a soul call him Verley.
Yeah, you have.
Until
at least
today.
One. At least one. Probably more, but at least one.
Whatever. Side note, Justin Verlander sat next to me at Starbucks like 6 months ago, so that means we're kind of like best friends.
Did you say hi?
He was on the phone to Kate, and I didn't want to interrupt.
Oh.
I mean, hey, that's being respectful, man. I mean, he came by and sat next to me, and I was like, oh my gosh, Justin Verlander sat next to me.
It's incredibly respectful of you.
I know.
It's like when I saw CC Sabathia at Legoland, and I didn't say anything because he was with his family. I mean, these guys, they get bombarded. You want to let them have their family time.
See, that's like, I ran into McCutcheon at that same Starbucks, which, I mean, if you need to go somewhere, you need to go to that Starbucks and just wait for the baseball players to run in there.
Are you going to say what Starbucks? You can't just say go to that Starbucks.
You just have to find out which Starbucks it is.
That's not helpful.
Why am I going to give a shout out and give secrets?
Okay, sorry.
Hey.
Your secret scouting zone.
Hey, I want the players, because, I mean, they give fake names over there. But, I mean, I just happen to work in baseball and kind of be able to recognize them.
Hashtag humble brag.
Humble brag. What up? But McCutcheon's really cool. He's short, but real cool.
How short is he?
He's like 5'8". He's
Is
listed
he
at like
really?
5'11". Yeah, he's shorter than me. I mean, he's not like super short, but like you think of a player of his ilk, and especially one when I ran into him was a couple years ago, coming off of his MVP season, you know, hitting like 30 homers. You're like, wow, big power guy. And then you look at him, it's like, wow, you're not that big.
He doesn't come across as small on TV like a guy like Altuve does.
Like Altuve comes across real small but plays big. Like Isaiah Thomas comes across as real small. But like McCutcheon, you just don't see it. And then like you see him in person or see him next to somebody and it takes you a second. You're like, wow, actually, he's a little bit shorter than you think he is. But, I mean, dude's amazing and also a really cool dude. He actually talked to a lot of people while he was in there.
That was nice of him.
Yeah, nice of him. But anyway, back to this World Series game. So, sorry, I had to do the humble brags, that inside scoop, you know, over there. Anyway.
Just call you Scoop.
So, we can pretty much fast forward to about the 8th inning. But I'll give you a quick rundown. So, Justin Verlander had a perfect game through 4 innings. He gave up a walk, and then he ended his start giving up only 2 hits, but was losing 3-1. And had he gone on to lose that game, which the Dodgers had over an 84% win expectancy, he would have been, I believe they said on the Fox broadcast, the second pitcher in World Series history to lose a game and giving up 2 or fewer hits.
That's crazy.
It's like, because, I mean, he was dealing. It's just
2 hits, 3 runs given up.
I mean, it's crazy because there weren't any errors behind him. It was just 2 homers. And so what can you do about it? So, anyway, we get to the 8th inning. The Dodgers looking like they're going to nail the door down on this. Brandon Morrow has allowed 3 extra base hits all season. Alex Bregman lines a hit in the right field corner. Yasiel Puig covers an insane amount of ground to get to this. Dives for the ball. Hits off the heel of his glove and then ricochets into the stands for a ground rule double.
Oh,
it's just one of those things. It's like that makes baseball so unique. It's a game of inches. And that's really what happened. And just shoots off his glove. Huh? Well, it happens in other sports.
I mean,
but they call baseball the game of inches.
I believe they call football the game of inches, but go on.
They call baseball first.
Basketball has got a lot of inches to go with it, too.
Whatever. Anyway, us baseball fans, no, it's the game of inches. Anyway. So, after that, Puig slams his glove down in frustration. Naturally. He's an emotional player. And then they bring in the lights-out closer, potentially the best closer in the game, Kenley Jansen, to get the last 2 innings. So, Jansen enters. Carlos Correa, single up the middle to score Bregman from third base. The LA Dodgers' 28-inning scoreless streak ends, which was just a record, postseason record. It was amazing. So, Dodgers 3, Astros 2. Dodgers still have a 74.5% win expectancy. Jansen gets into the top of the 9th. He's had 1 blown save all season. Marwin Gonzalez leads off and homers on an 0-2 pitch. Only the 3rd home run Jansen allowed in his career on an 0-2 pitch. So, tied 3-3. Then we go to the top of the 10th. So, Josh Fields enters in, replacing Jansen. He was out of gas. You can't ask him to go 3 innings if you want to save him for the rest of the series. First batter, Jose Altuve, solo home run. Next batter, Carlos Correa, solo home run. Next pitch after that, Yuli Gurriel lines a blistering double into left center field. Josh Fields is out of there. Just gone. So Astros 5, Dodgers 3. Then a fan in the 10th inning runs into the Dodgers bullpen. So they had to stop the game for that for a while. So it's like the Astros had just scored and everything. Everybody's pumped up. And then all of a sudden everybody's just like kind of standing out on the field and it like gets quiet real quick. And then you hear Joe Buck. And something's going on out in the Astros bullpen. Did a fan get down in there? And then you see like somebody, and then they have to cut away really quick because they don't try to show that stuff. Then they see security with like locking arms with some guy who's trying to wrestle away.
Question.
Yes.
Why don't they try to show that stuff? Isn't that super entertaining?
It's super entertaining, and they used to show it, but I think they started seeing that there were a lot of copycats trying to do it and using it to get on TV. So I think if they don't show them doing that on TV, then people won't do it as much.
See it, though.
See, I'm with you. I want to see it too, but you don't want like every big game somebody running out onto the field and then getting their like 15 minutes of fame.
But why not? Because that would be really funny.
But then it would happen like every game.
No, it wouldn't.
Dude, it would happen a lot.
No, it wouldn't. I don't think so.
It already happens a lot and they don't get on TV.
Look, all I'm saying is...
Stop being selfish.
No. In other sports, when people do that, they show the camera on them unless they're naked. Like in football. If someone manages to get on the field, is running around, they show that.
I haven't seen it recently. I haven't seen that recently because like they adopted like the baseball thing. I think it's just like a broadcasting rule now that they don't show it.
They should show it.
I mean, it's part of the contract with the leagues, I believe.
Well,
they don't want them to show it.
They should show it.
Well, you know what? Just go take it to Roger Goodell then.
I will. He seems reasonable.
He seems like a reasonable person who's really willing to listen to all sides of a story.
Especially people who are beneath him.
Exactly. Great stand-up guy. Disclaimer, neither of us know Roger Goodell personally. We just go based off of what
He's a
he
bad
shows.
commissioner.
Yeah.
So he's real bad.
But his league makes a lot of money, so I guess
He's doing
the
his
owners
job?
like it.
Question mark?
Okay. Anyway, back to baseball. So they bring Ken Giles in for the Astros, their closer, and he can't close it out.
Oh.
Puig homers, then Logan Forsythe walks with 2 outs. Wild pitch happens, moves up, and then the GOAT, Kike Hernandez of 3 home run fame, shout out to the Chicago Cubs, against a right-hander, because Kike Hernandez never faces right-handers, but apparently in the playoffs, he just destroys them. So Kike Hernandez laces a single to right field, scores Forsythe, game tied 5-5. We get to the top of the 11th. There's only one reliever left, and it's former starter Brandon McCarthy, who hasn't pitched in the last 2 playoff rounds. I don't think has pitched since the regular season, but they put him on the World Series roster for moments just like this. To come in with the game on the line
Just
and nobody
like
left.
this.
Nobody left. Game on the line. Give us some innings.
You wouldn't believe what happens next.
Oh my god!
No, you delivered that really well. I liked it.
Thank you. So he had just pitched 6 innings since the end of July. Brandon McCarthy comes in. Cameron Maben, who had just come into the game as a defensive replacement, singles to center field. So George Springer steps in. Cameron Maben, very, very fast, steals second base. Okay. No harm right now. We're doing good. George Springer, 2-run homer to right center field. Astros 7, Dodgers 5. Then we get to the bottom of the 11th. And just when you think the Astros have this locked up, nothing else is going to change. Dodgers make it interesting. Charlie Culberson enters the game as a sub. Homered with 2 outs off of Chris Davinsky, the all-star reliever. Pumped his arm as he rounded second base. He honestly was celebrating like he was Kirk Gibson and just gave them like the lead and won the World Series or something. But whatever. Celebrate.
What's wrong with the man celebrating? Why are you going to take a shot at Goldie like that?
Because, I mean, you're still down with 2 outs.
Yeah, but you could be excited. Come on, man.
I mean, everybody was kind of...
fist bump? What's wrong with that?
No, it was a lot more than a fist pump.
No.
He was, like, jumping all around the bases. Like, seriously, if you...
He's just an emotional player. Colby.
Whatever. Anyway.
Spoiler alert, the Dodgers didn't win. You're welcome.
Puig has a very tough at-bat. I think it's a 10-pitch at-bat.
Oh, that's real long.
No, like, Puig was really battling. He kept fouling off, I think, like, the last 5 pitches. And then there was a slider that was near the bottom of the zone, and it was a pitch, like, it's too close to not swing at. So he had to swing at it and then just swung right over the top of it because it just fell off a cliff. So Puig makes the last out. And honestly, this game would have been tied if it wasn't for a great play by Alex Bregman, because in the at-bat right before Culberson, he just makes a great play on a line drive because he was playing guarding the line, had to shift over. Otherwise, if Culberson gets up with a runner on, it's a 2-run homer and the game's tied right again. So that's game 2 of the World Series. I think we're in for a really good one, because these 2 games have been very evenly matched. It's 2 very analytical teams with a lot of depth going against each other, and I think we're in for a fun ride here. Hopefully it goes 7 games, because that's what I love to see, because more baseball, and who doesn't love a 7-game series? So why not? So tune in. That's my little baseball pitch there to get you to...
Thank you, Weston, for taking us on a delightful journey through baseball hell. That wasn't so bad.
And Bradley's actually going to watch the games now.
I'm going to watch the game tomorrow night, which is tonight when this episode comes out. Game 3. I'm going to watch it. That's the plan. Unless, decide to watch Navy Norfolk State football. I don't know who's actually on, but there's always a garbage college football game on Friday nights. Anyway, we had some baseball news. Would you like to deliver that, Weston?
Yes, I would. Under the category of surprising managerial moves, the Yankees, who are one win away from the World Series, announced today that Joe Girardi will not return to the team after 10 years at the helm.
He took a team that wasn't supposed to do anything this year, and they almost got to the World Series. They were very good.
They beat the unstoppable team, the Cleveland Indians. They were down 2-0 against the Indians, and
everyone thought they were going to get swept. Everyone thought they were going to get swept because they weren't ready. I mean, it's a really, really young team. They're in rebuilding mode. They weren't supposed to be this good this year. It's weird, but I guess baseball is just weird like this sometimes. I just don't understand it.
I saw something on Twitter, and I don't remember the person's name, but it was basically saying that the owners were getting bored or something. It's just like after a while, it's on those high profile teams, you just kind of have to shake things up. I more understand the John Farrell getting, let go and Dusty Baker saying, hey, we're not going to renew your contract because Dusty Baker hadn't made it out of the first round. The manager the Nationals had before that, Matt Williams, didn't make it out of the first round. So the Nationals are really just fed up at this point.
Well, and John Farrell wasn't Boston GM's guy, right?
And then there's a lot of different stuff that's happened on his watch. Pun intended.
I don't get the pun.
The whole Apple Watch scandal.
Oh, yeah.
That he was like, I didn't know anything about that. And it's like, okay, you probably knew something about it. And if you didn't know anything about it, then what are you doing as a manager not knowing about it?
It's like Rick Pitino status.
It's very Rick Pitino status. So, and John Farrell didn't seem like he was running the tightest clubhouse. There were a lot of instances where they were certain players were getting into it with different members of the media, some of which are Hall of Fame pitchers who were told that they didn't understand the game. But, we'll just leave that David Price story where it is.
Shots fired.
Shots fired. Anyway.
Yo, where do you think Girardi's going?
Honestly, if I had to put money on it, he's taking a year off.
I want him to go to Miami. Reunite with Jeter.
You know what? I would like to see that. And then the fantasy scenario of where the Yankees fans get Don Mattingly back in the Bronx. So, the Dodgers, not the Dodgers, wow. Mattingly's former team, the Dodgers. Sorry.
Wow.
The Marlins and the Yankees work out a deal where Mattingly goes up to the Bronx and Girardi comes back and takes over as manager of the Marlins, where he got fired in 2007 after he won Manager of the Year. So Girardi's really had some bad luck, I guess, in his career, where he's been fired after he won 83 games and was Manager of the Year with a team, with a payroll under $40 million.
That's very unprofessional of you.
I'm sorry. If I had a cough button, I would have used it, but we aren't that high rollers yet.
Not yet.
Not yet. We're getting there, though. But
hey, we got a theme song. What do you want from us?
That's right. We're doing things. Anyway.
Doing it.
So Girardi got fired after being Manager of the Year, and then now gets let go, being one win away from the World Series. It's just crazy. He's going to get whatever pick of job he wants. All the teams that still have openings available are contacting him. And if it's like a Joe Madden situation, teams that currently have managers right now are probably contacting him just to gauge his interest. But I think, honestly, he's just burnt out right now. After he left the Marlins, he did some broadcasting for the Yankees for a couple of years and then took the Yankees job. So I think he's going to spend some time with the family, just cool off, relax, de-stress for at least a year, and then probably have his pick of whatever job opens up.
It's not a bad idea, I don't think. I mean, it's got to be a high stressful job. The baseball calendar is really long, so you don't get that much time off. I mean, and he's made a lot of money. I wouldn't blame him for taking a year off to decompress a little bit when you know there's going to be a job waiting for you when you get back.
Especially managing like that team. I mean, the New York Yankees. Yeah. I mean, that's pretty much the most stressful job in sports.
It's one of the most premier teams in all of sports is the New York Yankees.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, so many cameras and reporters and everything basically grilling every single decision you make or even any action in the dugout you do. That's a tough job, and he did it very well, but we'll see who the Yankees hire now. I mean, they must have somebody in mind, but we'll see what happens.
All right, that's enough time in baseball, Hell. Weston, what's next for
Okay.
us?
Well, let's go to Steelers hell.
Martavis Bryant.
Dun dun dun.
So if you don't know, Martavis Bryant
Stole Juju Schuster's bike.
is a really, really talented receiver for the Pittsburgh Steelers that was suspended all of last season. Finally was coming back this season. It was super hyped. He was going to be great. And he's done basically nothing. His year high so far for a game has been 48 yards, and he doesn't have a touchdown. So now he wants out. He's not getting enough targets. They're spreading the ball around a lot more than they usually do, other than Antonio Brown. He still gets his 10 targets a game. But guys like Juju Smith-Schuster, which is a great name, and he did one of the all-time great touchdown celebrations with his Kamehameha wave. Shout out to you Dragon Ball Z fans out there.
Gosh.
It was great, dude. It was awesome.
Shout out to Juju on that beat as he inspired that song for those of you who are pop cultured.
I'm not pop cultured. So the Steelers decided, no, we're not going to trade you. Instead, we're just going to inactivate you. You're now a healthy scratch for this week's game. You will not be playing. So either get over it and play, or stay, not playing, because we're not trading you. And Martavis Bryant, before incentives, it's only making $600,000 a year, which in NFL standards, especially at the receiver position, that is nothing, because he's still on a rookie deal. So I think this is interesting, because I actually think they may be able to get something from Martavis Bryant. Teams like the Jets, teams like even the Jags that are in contention but could really use a number one, could really use Martavis Bryant. He's a incredibly talented receiver. One of the big three Clemson guys with Sammy Watkins and DeAndre Hopkins. He has been great in the past, and I think he's really, really good. I would like to see him get another shot, whether it's with the Steelers and him sort of mending their relationship, or if it's with another team. Because I like seeing talented players play, but from a business perspective, I understand what the Steelers are doing.
Honestly, I do too, and I think the value you would expect him to have really isn't coming to fruition, because I don't think teams are going to give up a lot for him, because
The off the field stuff.
He's walking into the wrong person's house one time and them doing some things that they shouldn't be doing, and him failing a drug test from not ever playing again. And then there's also the concern that the year off just really messed with him, and he's not the same player. Because, I mean, part of it, I would say a lot of us would agree, it's either the scheme or Big Ben kind of losing a little arm strength, why he hasn't been as productive, but you still don't know.
Yeah, to me, it's difficult to blame Martavis Bryant's season on him, because Martavis Bryant in the past thrived off of deep balls. He would often have games where it was 3 catches for 80 yards and a touchdown, and that was just a normal thing for him. He's really good at high pointing the ball. He's really fast. He's great at laying out for balls. He's a great deep threat for a team. And Big Ben just isn't throwing the ball deep as much this year. His arm strength is starting to fail him. Which is why I think if he got on a team like the Ravens, like the Jags, where you have quarterbacks that, despite their inabilities, one thing they do have is strong arms.
That's
and they
very
can
true.
push the ball downfield. They just don't have a speedster to do it. So even the Jets with Josh McCown, I mean, they're using Robbie Anderson in that role, who's doing okay, but they could really use a vertical threat.
I mean, the Jets could use him for the playoff push.
Even a team like the Chiefs. Like the Chiefs basically only have Tyreek Hill right now. They could really use another really good receiver. I understand their concerns with the off the field stuff, which is why he probably won't get traded. So hopefully they can mend their relationship a little bit, but we'll see.
And then, speaking of mending relationships, which in this case is a little bit more profound, and I don't think the door is even still open to mending the relationship, is Eric Bledsoe and the Suns. Because this also revolves around a social media post, which Martavius Bryant's case was on Instagram calling out Juju, saying that, replying to somebody saying, "Come on, fool, Juju is nowhere near as good as I am." Something along those lines.
Which I would agree that Martavius Bryant is better than Juju Smith-Schuster, but there's no reason to be disrespectful to your teammates.
And Eric Bledsoe kind of did a similar situation where he just tweeted out, "I don't want to be here," which people aren't really shocked he would think that because, hey, he's had to deal with a lot of losing with the Suns.
The Suns are potentially the worst team in basketball.
They're really trying to rebuild. He's pretty much by far and away him and Tyson Chandler are the only pretty much non-rookies on that team for all intents and purposes, because
or the only veterans, if you want to call it.
Yeah, the only true veterans, because Devin Booker's been in the league for a few years. He's not a veteran.
No, he's young still. He's like 22. Eric Bledsoe's about to be 28, so he's been in the league for a while.
And he's seen, his other counterparts, because the Suns had 3 really good point guards, and Dragic, Isaiah Thomas, and Eric Bledsoe, and they knew they were going to trade 2 of the 3, and it was just which one they were going to keep. And they ended up keeping Bledsoe, and he's seen Dragic go to Miami and have some success, get a new contract, Isaiah Thomas have some success with Boston, and then now he's going over to Cleveland, and then you have Bledsoe here, who is just basically playing out some of the best years of his career with a team that's going nowhere.
And I understand why you would win out. You've never been able to win in your career. If you really want to win, you need to get out of that situation. And in basketball, unlike football, here's the stark difference is basketball players have some power. In football, a guy says he wants to be traded. The team says, "Nuh-uh, you just don't get to play anymore," and
Right.
It activates him. Basketball, the guy says, "I want to get traded." The GM instantly comes out and says, "We're going to trade him because we don't want him here." So I think it shows a difference in both the culture, mainly the culture of the two, where the NFL is very militaristic, very disciplinarian, very
next
cold.
man up.
Yeah, very cold in that way, where Aaron Rodgers is getting hurt and Mike McCarthy is getting mad at reporters' questions because he says Brett Hundley's been here. Brett Hundley can do this. It's next man up. Brett Hundley's got this. Brett Hundley's not very good, by the way. Whereas in the NBA, it's very player focused. It's very empowered. The players are empowered to be expressive and be themselves, and the players are incredibly important. And in the NFL, the players are incredibly important too. But for some reason, the leaders of the organizations don't want to admit it, because of player empowerment. Maybe it's just a difference in culture.
It is. I mean, when you think about an NFL roster and then combined with practice squads and everything, there's a ton more NFL players than there are NBA players.
Well, if you include practice squad, you're looking at around 70, 70 NFL players on a team versus maybe 15 on an NBA roster if you count the inactives, maybe 18 if they have a bunch of guys that they keep inactivated. So it's interesting that these two things are happening at the exact same time, because it kind of shows the differences in the culture between the two. But as far as this situation is concerned with Eric Bledsoe, I think it's interesting that he shares an agent with LeBron, and LeBron could really use a point guard right about now.
Oh, really?
Because LeBron is having to start at point guard right now because they don't have one. Derrick Rose just won't cut it.
I mean, doesn't LeBron practically start at point guard even when he doesn't start at point guard?
Yeah, but when you actually start at point guard, you can't take plays off. Like, the reason I think him and Kyrie were such a great duo was because there would be plays where LeBron would be like, yeah, I'm going to take a few plays off offensively. Kyrie, go get us some buckets. And he would do it. And LeBron doesn't have that guy anymore. I think LeBron was hoping that would be D Wade. And D Wade has been real bad. And D Wade just got put on the second unit.
Well, which he did, volunteer to do. He came to Ty Lue and was like, put me on the second unit.
Reportedly. I think it may have been a decision that was encouraged by LeBron. Like, I know the whole LeBron conspiracy theory thing. LeBron controls that team. Say whatever you want about Ty Lue. And if LeBron wasn't confident that D Wade could start, regardless of their friendship, LeBron's worried about one thing, and that's his legacy. LeBron would bench D Wade.
Well, absolutely. But it's also like the thing where D Wade wasn't going to get that many shots on the first unit anyway. Whereas,
he was taking 10 to 13 shots a game. It's not like he wasn't getting the ball. He was getting opportunities. He wasn't shooting well at all.
I think that's why they put him on the second unit too, because
he'll be better on the second unit. And it's a good veteran presence for the second unit to have. Whereas JR, I think, is better at when LeBron's on the court, I stand in the corner and I shoot threes. And that's good.
And hopefully they go in.
And a lot of times they do because he's a good shooter. So I'm not sure what the Cavs could give up unless it was basically, they have the Nets pick, but I don't think I would use that on a guy that you're expecting to be second team when Isaiah Thomas comes back. I don't think I'd do that.
Because he's also not very cheap either.
You have Tristan Thompson.
That would make the salaries match, but
the issue is then you're going to need to sign a big man. But you could do that in February when all the buyouts happen. I could see Bogut once again getting bought out.
I was just thinking
and
Bogut.
Then again, Bogut comes and plays on the second unit for the Cavs. This time he actually gets to play. I could see that happening.
Well, the guy you're forgetting about. He's already in the Cavaliers organization. It's Kendrick Perkins sitting down there playing for the Canton Charge. He's in the organization. Big man's coming back.
Kendrick Perkins has lost it. When he originally went to the Cavs back in, 2014, 2015, I actually had high hopes for him because I thought he had something left. I was very wrong. He has nothing left. He's done. So it's or there could be some sort of 3-team trade where they also get a big man. I don't know. Tristan Thompson for Bledsoe is kind of a steep asking price, but they could make it work. If LeBron wants Bledsoe, they'll get Bledsoe. I also know that the Bucks have interest, but the Suns are asking for Malcolm Brogdon, who was the Rookie of the Year last year. I don't see that happening. They're trying to give up. No. They're trying to give up a package including Dellavedova. Dellavedova's not very good. He's a fine backup, but not quite the replacement for a decent starting point guard you're looking for if you're the Suns. I don't have a great grasp on where he could end up. I don't even know if he would make a huge difference wherever he went.
That's the thing. He has good numbers, but it's just if you have a good team, you want to add somebody with his numbers, but you also don't want to add a guy like that and then just completely wreck the locker room. Like what happened with the Mavericks when they were having an all-time great season, like the most efficient team offensively in basketball, and then they add Rondo, who is having basically a career year, and then Rondo gets to Dallas, and then everything goes to crap.
Maybe I could see him on a team.
Because I know the best trade offer I saw.
What's that
for him?
Is this rumored or is this confirmed?
It's rumored, but it was rumored by a lot of sources, so we'll see. I think it was.
I'm dying.
Oh my goodness! Some chocolate from that Frappuccino go down the wrong way.
I'm sorry, I'm just dying.
Okay. it is basically trading him to the Nuggets for Emmanuel Mudiay, which I think would be a good trade for both ends because Mudiay hasn't panned out in Denver. He's not starting, and Denver is kind of had some issues at point guard lately. And
I like that because the Nuggets are trying to compete, and Mudiay,
he's a project.
I mean, people believe in the talent of Mudiay still. To this day, scouts believe in Mudiay. So if you're the Suns organization and you think you can fix Mudiay, you do that deal. Like you have to make the money work, obviously. So you would need to take on some veteran. There'd have to be a veteran packaged in, but if you as an organization maybe not currently believe in Mudiay, but if when he was being drafted believed in his talent,
because he was a first round pick, even rumored to be a top pick.
I mean, he was rumored to be like the number 1 overall pick by some people. Then you do that trade. I don't know if I would, but
the other person who is rumored in that potential trade is Kenneth Faried to make the money matchup because Faried is kind of disgruntled in Denver himself because he's not starting right now and not getting as many minutes.
That's
but
not
it would
a
have to
trade.
Yeah, I mean, I think
Mudiay and Faried for Bledsoe. I actually think that's a really fair trade. Yeah. I think if I was either side, I would do that deal. I think it makes both teams better, to be honest. I like that trade.
So we just solved all the issues right
Done.
Here. Bledsoe, you're going to Denver. Hope you enjoy the snow.
Enjoy.
It's a beautiful city. Beautiful city. Don't screw it up. Right? And Bledsoe, if you want to come on the show to break the news that you got traded to Denver, just give us a shout out. That's at the Rollout Show.
Come on the Rollout Show. That's at the Rollout Show.
Please.
Or the rolloutsports.com will link you to all of our media.
That's right. I mean, we practically are the Players Tribune. I mean, Jeter's going to be so focused with the Marlins anyway.
Yeah. Just come on the Rollout Show. Do you want to improve your standing on the top 30 players in the NBA? Come on the show. Maybe we'll give you a little bump up.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to be ahead of Draymond, then, just let us know. Come on the show. I mean, we'll totally throw, Tim Hardaway Jr. up there in the top 10 if he wants to.
We'll throw away all journalistic credibility because we're not journalists.
That's right. We're just
who cares?
We're doing our podcast. We're doing it our way.
Podcast because we love sports.
We love sports.
We don't care who knows.
That's right. We say it proudly. Everywhere.
What's left on the docket? Let's blow through this.
Well, potentially a coach that everyone loves. That may or may not be overrated.
So overrated is a strong word. So, Jim Harbaugh. He had a great, surprisingly good first season where the team was better than anyone expected.
Had a couple heartbreaking losses, things like that.
Yeah, like that Michigan State game they should not have lost. I mean, so here's the thing. Jim Harbaugh and Brady Hoke have a surprisingly similar start to their Michigan coaching careers. Why?
Gasp.
Why? Okay. Brady Hoke, first 2 seasons as coach at Michigan. 19-7 record. 2 bowl games. 1 New Year's 6 bowl appearance, which, if you don't know what that is, that's basically the really good bowls. It's like the top tier of non-BCS bowls. Ohio State versus Ohio State 1-1. Divisional finishes 2nd and 2nd. Average AP poll finish 18th. Jim Harbaugh's first 2 years. Record 20-6, only 1 game better. Bowl games 2. New Year's 6 bowl appearances 1. Versus Ohio State 0-2. Divisional finishes 3rd and 3rd. And 1 season that was to Michigan State, the other Penn State. Average AP poll finish 11th. So they basically had the same start. Now, I don't think Jim Harbaugh is going to fall off a cliff sort of like Brady Hoke did. Like, I think after that point, Brady Hoke had a losing record at Michigan, which is crazy considering the talent that comes through that program.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to give Jim Harbaugh the full 4-year cycle that we allot every new coach. I think winning more than expected at the start is to his detriment at this point because the expectations are crazy.
Well, you bring in a coach like Jim Harbaugh from the NFL and a guy who's in front of the camera that much, you expect results.
Right, but the program, sort of like Texas, was deemed to have not that much NFL talent on it. Like, there's a reason people didn't think that he was going to be able to win right away. It was going to be a rebuild project. He just happened to come in and win 10 games right away. So he deserves another season and a half. It's his 3rd season. He deserves the full 4-year cycle, just like we would allot any coach, right? We would
right for the most part,
unless it's like a travesty and he hasn't gotten any talent in. But he's got a quarterback on the way that he likes. The quarterback that's starting for him is not very good, and he doesn't like him very much, it would seem. I am surprised that team isn't better this year. But again, I think a lot of that is just he put such heavy expectations on himself with the early success.
Well, it's that, and then it's the things like if you verbally kind of spar with Saban and try to, poke the bear kind of thing in the media, then you get a target on your back.
Agreed. And that's sort of just quirky Jim Harbaugh. He does that.
Yeah, he just does that. But if you're a high profile coach like that and you're always in front of the camera, all the media loves you, things like that, you expect to be in the top 4 spots for the playoff and not just, well, another disappointing loss for Michigan, but it's coming. Harbaugh's getting there, kind of thing. You expect him to be in the upper echelon,
because he's
and right now, exactly.
I understand.
Yeah,
that.
You have to back some of that stuff up and not be, because it seems like Harbaugh just seems to make a lot of excuses now, because he'll crap talk and then it'll be like, well, the locker room, wasn't good facilities for us and things like that, because that's what he said, when they've lost earlier in the season, and it's like, come on, dude.
I agree. I just think we need to pump the brakes a little bit.
Oh, I agree. I still think he's a good coach overall, but it's when you come into a situation with that much fanfare and keep it going, then...
Well, because he's had great success everywhere he's been. He transformed the Stanford program. He transformed Alex Smith. And the thought was he was going to transform the Michigan program back to what it was. And I still think he can. I still think he's a great coach. But the raw doesn't seem to be working as well for him as it has in the past. And they just got smoked by Penn State. That's a bad loss for him.
Oh, yeah.
His defense got run over by Saquon Barkley. Granted, that dude's going to win the Heisman easily.
He's a great player.
If he stays healthy, he should be like the unanimous winner. He's stupid good. He deserves another year and a half. If after another year and a half, the team still can't even get in the top 10 consistently, like that team, they need to be competing for Big Ten titles. And really, they've only been realistically in the hunt once. Was it last season where they were 1 game away from winning the Big Ten title?
Yes, it was last season where it was like they have to beat Ohio State, and it was the thing like, well, does Michigan get in? Does Wisconsin get in? Does Penn State get in? All those teams had an argument, and then Michigan ended up losing, so it didn't matter.
Yeah, and that was a bad loss. I just want to pump the brakes a little bit. I still have faith in Jim Harbaugh.
I do too. It's just right now it's not looking that good, and I would venture not even to say win a Big Ten title. He just needs to handedly beat Michigan State for one, and then also just get a win against Ohio State.
He needs to beat somebody handedly because that team's been winning a lot of close games.
They have, and then they have Michigan State's not even supposed to be a factor this year. Last year they were completely terrible, and then they just go in there and just...
I will say, you know as well as anyone that rivalry games, it doesn't matter. Like, this weekend is the Georgia-Florida game, and Georgia is significantly better than UF this year.
You heard it here first.
Georgia should win that game by 30 points. I'm horrified, and it's going to be a one-score game because that's how it goes every time. Just the same way during the Iron Bowl,
Most years, yes.
you know it's going to be a good game and a close game because rivalry games are just different. So I don't want to bash them for having a close game with Michigan State. I will bash them for having close games with like Indiana. Who was the team that took them to overtime last week? Was it Indiana? Was it like
It was
Iowa?
Indiana.
Okay. You should not be going to overtime with those teams. You need to crush them. To, if anything, just give your team some confidence. Because that's sort of how college football works. You need to crush your opponents.
And especially if it's deemed like a team, no offense to Indiana, but they're not viewed at the upper
like a
echelon.
500 team.
Yeah.
And in college football, if you're a 500 team this far into the season, you're not a good team. That's just how it is. Sorry. You could be a fine team. You could be a decent football program. You could go to a bowl game and win and have a good season.
Get to go to a cool place, have some fun.
But if you're 7-5, you should not be taking Michigan to overtime.
No.
Unless it's a rivalry game. Because as a longtime college football fan, you should know rivalry games are just different.
I agree. It's just with his kind of expectations that are on him there, when a team that isn't supposed to be as good as Michigan State is, I think they're better than a lot of us expected, but last year was just awful for them.
Well, and Michigan State's an incredibly well-coached team.
Absolutely.
Like, people forget that they were just in the playoff 2 years ago. Like, and they've had success over the last decade.
A lot of NFL players came from Michigan State. Shout out to Kirk Cousins.
It's a very good football program. That has had a couple of down years in a row, but they'll get it back. And the other thing that hurts them and Michigan is that the Big Ten's looking real strong right now. Penn State is very good. Ohio State's is generally really good.
Wisconsin looks good.
Wisconsin has looked good for the last several years. Big Ten's showing up. They're looking real good. They're in the conversation for best conference, along with the SEC and previously the ACC. I think they've kind of lost that this year, but they're up there for sure.
So I guess what we'll really just finish with is that Jim Harbaugh needs some time, but I think the seat is starting to get a little warm.
I wouldn't even say getting warm.
I wouldn't say it's getting warm, but that's the only expression I can really think of right now. It's the time is starting to get a little closer.
I think there's some raised eyebrows from some Michigan fans. I don't think his seat is warm at all. I think he's one of the most secure people in college football with his job. I think he has zero chance of being fired. I think they could lose every game the rest of the way and he would have zero chance of being fired. But after next season, if they finish 9-3, 8-4, they again lose to Ohio State, they lose to Penn State, they have really tight games with like Iowa and Indiana, then I could see it start to heat up. And there's no improvement in the offense, because that's been their problem. The defense has been really good. It's the offense. He's supposed to be a quarterback whisperer because he's turned
the vaunted quarterback whisperer.
Yeah. Well, he's turned decent quarterbacks into great quarterbacks everywhere he's been, right? He gets a lot of credit for Andrew Luck. He saved Alex Smith's career. I will give him 100% of the credit for Alex Smith.
I give Alex Smith 100% of the credit.
Alex Smith was dead in the water, and Jim Harbaugh made him believe that he was good. Colin Kaepernick was a really, really, really good quarterback under Jim Harbaugh, and his numbers fell off a cliff as soon as Jim Harbaugh left. I also know for a fact that Michigan's starting quarterback right now is not someone that Jim Harbaugh particularly likes being their starting quarterback. So if he gets his guy in there and there's no improvement, you can hit the panic button. Not yet.
That's the thing I'm thinking is, once the seat starts getting warm, I don't think it's going to be one of those elongated things where it's going to get hot quick, because
I agree.
if they don't come out next season and be a top 4 team, make the playoff, beat Ohio State.
I mean, they don't have to make the playoff. They need to be close. Like, you're not going to make the playoff every year. There's too many good teams in college football to be a top 4 team every year unless you have Nick Saban as your coach. Like, it's an unrealistic expectation that he will make the playoff.
A lot of the big schools like that, that's their expectation. Ohio State,
I would disagree.
That's their expectation.
I would disagree. I think you have to be in the conversation every year. That's the difference, I think. You need to, every year, have a shot down the stretch to be in the playoff. And some years you'll make it, and some years you'll miss, unless you have Nick Saban. And then you'll always make it, because Nick Saban is the GOAT, and he's built a dynasty unlike anything college football has ever seen. And that dude is incredible, and I have so much respect for Nick Saban. I hope that translates to Kirby Smart. We'll see. But it's unrealistic for sort of like Ohio State. Urban Meyer doesn't have any heat in his coaching seat. They're, even this season, when they haven't been great, they're still in the conversation. Like, they beat Penn State, they beat Michigan. All of a sudden, there's some whispers, hey, could Ohio State sneak in with the 4 spot? It could happen. It's happened before with them.
It has.
The year they won the title with Cardale Jones, they snuck in like a weasel.
No, they really did, because the Big 12...
TCU got screwed.
They really did, because it's like, okay, leading up to it, you're in the top 4, and we're dropping you 2 spots, and have fun in the Fiesta Bowl.
I know those feels. Yo, 2010, Matthew Stafford, no Sean Marino, ranked 3rd last week of the season. Numbers 1 and 2 both lose. Georgia falls back to 3. Gets to play in the Sugar Bowl. Beats Hawaii like 41-0. Ends ranked 2. Yo, I know those feels.
I can see your eyes watering a little bit.
LSU took that away from us.
Hey, Les Miles is a heck of a coach, let me tell you.
Not happy about that year. Still mad. A little bit.
Who was LSU's quarterback?
May have been Matt Flynn that year.
Yeah, you might be right.
I think it was Matt Flynn. It was the year they beat Ohio State. Or was it Ohio State or was it Oklahoma? No, it was Ohio State. I think.
Yeah. It was one of those two.
I think it was Ohio State.
A coach that won 1 title at a historic program and then didn't do anything after that. So, Ohio State, Oklahoma, same thing, right?
Wow. Disrespectful. But my point is, it's unrealistic expectations unless you're at the University of Texas, that your team be in the playoffs every single season.
That's what I'm saying, because some of my family are Michigan fans. I watched that Indiana game with some Michigan fans. I know how they think. So that's...
You gotta have some patience, and then you can't, like, if Georgia misses the playoff this year because they don't have 2 SEC teams in there, I will be thrilled at this season, because we were in the discussion as a playoff contender. And that's all you can ask for in college football. When you have a committee and you don't have a clear, like...
The committee's different every couple of years,
and there's not a good... Like, if Georgia loses 1 game to Alabama, like, yes, they could have beat Bama and gotten in, obviously, winning you're in, but they would have basically had to play an extra playoff game, and that's sort of an unfair requirement of Georgia and Alabama for them to have to play a play-in game. That's how the college football playoff works. I hate it, and that's why I think it should expand to 8 teams. Whereas in the NFL, there's 16 games. It's sort of round robin-ish. You're playing a lot of other teams, and it's pretty fair who gets in. College football is weird. Like, if Georgia misses the playoff and Notre Dame gets in, and Georgia is Notre Dame's only loss on the season, I will scream. That will not be good. Something is getting punched.
Yes.
I don't know who or what, but something
Fist
is
going
getting
through
punched.
the wall. Drywall everywhere.
Not really, though. I don't have anger problems. I wouldn't do that because I wouldn't know how to clean it up, and I'd be embarrassed to call maintenance.
And then you wouldn't want to show up to the hospital with a broken hand.
Oh, I wouldn't have a broken hand. That wall has no chance.
It's a brick wall over here.
Anyway, we're way over. So thank you all for listening. I hope you've enjoyed this extra special rambling and tangent episode. We talked for about a half an hour about things that were not on our docket, so
that we didn't prepare for at all.
So we had to rush through our docket a little bit, but we hope you enjoyed.
Still better than the Kyrie episode. That's all I got to say.
Ooh, that one was a doozy. Yeah. Who would have thought, as good at rambling as we are, that the Kyrie Irving trade would only take up like 20 minutes of time?
Got to the 25-minute mark, and I'm like, oh, man, we're running on fumes.
That's like the biggest trade in the NBA that I can think of in the past decade, and we were running out.
We started sounding like Marshawn Lynch, just saying, yeah, all right. But anyway, thanks for listening. Check us out
at The Rollout Show. Check us out at therolloutsports.com. Give us reviews on iTunes. Interact with us on social media. We like talking to you guys and would like to more. We appreciate all of you. Thank you for listening.
Stay tuned for next episode 32, where we talk to Eric Bledsoe and see exactly where he wants to go.
That's not true, though. You shouldn't lie to people. We will probably not be talking to Eric Bledsoe next episode.
But there's always a chance.
It's not a 0% chance. Not a 0% chance.
So we'll see. We'll learn together. But that's why you have to wait and stay tuned for episode 32. We appreciate you all. Thanks. Goodbye.
See ya.